Hello students, welcome back to Narayana Digital Classes. Today we will be solving the assignment number 24 on the topic atomic structure. Let's move on to the assignment. So here the first question, the electrons are ejected from surface of the certain metals when light fall on it. This is known as. So for example, this is a metal. We know that metals contain so many electrons. So generally electrons are represented with negative charge, right? So there is a nature for a metal, that is metals are good electron donors. So they are highly electropositive elements, all the metals. So electron good donors. Whenever a beam of light strike to the metal surface, immediately an electron can eject from the metal. Eject from the metal surface. So this phenomena is called as photoelectric effect. So whenever a beam of light strike to the surface of the metal, immediately the electron will eject from the metal surface. So this phenomena is called as a photoelectric effect. So the correct option is first option. Let's move on to the next question. So in photoelectric effect, the ejected electrons are called as, just now we discussed, whenever a light of beam eject to metal surface, the electrons will eject from the metal surface, right? Electrons will eject from the metal surface. So these electrons are called as photoelectrons. So the correct option is the first option. Clear? Let's move on to the next question. So here the question is, if dash kinetic energy is positive and electron is emitted. So according to photoelectric effect, a beam will strike to the metal surface, the electron will eject. Right? So the frequency of this beam, whenever it strikes to the metal surface, at that place, that frequency is called as threshold frequency. So the threshold frequency varies from each and every metal. Threshold frequency. So it's indicated with nu 0. Threshold frequency. This is the minimum frequency at where whenever a beam strikes to the metal surface, there the electron will eject from the metal surface. So this is the minimum frequency of a beam of light. So whenever this threshold frequency is less than the normal frequency of the light, then the kinetic energy is a positive kinetic energy. So the rule will be nu less than greater than the nu 0. Right? So in this case only the kinetic energy will be positive, because here the beam of light frequency is higher than the threshold frequency. If the beam of light frequency increases, the more number of electrons will be ejected from the surface of the metal. So the correct option is the first option. Nu greater than nu 0. That is, nu 0 is the threshold frequency. Let's move on to the next question. So here the question is, if the kinetic energy is 0, the electron is not emitted, right? So the frequency of light, that is nu, whenever it equal to the threshold frequency generally indicate with nu 0. So what is the threshold frequency? Threshold frequency is the minimum frequency at where whenever the beam of light strike to the metal surface, there the electron will eject from the surface of the metal, right? So this minimum frequency is called as threshold frequency. The normal frequency of light, whenever it equal to the threshold frequency, then the kinetic energy of the electron is 0. So the correct option is the third option. Let's move on to the next question. So the question is, if dash the kinetic energy is negative and no electron is emitted. No electron is emitted, right? So this is also same kind of third and fourth question type. So here threshold energy is greater than the normal frequency. Threshold frequency is greater than, that means nu is greater than the normal frequency. Then what happens? The electron won't eject, because we know that the frequency of beam is completely depend upon whenever the beam hit to the surface of the metal, the frequency, if the frequency is increases, the more number of electrons will be eject from the surface of the metal. So if threshold frequency increases, then at that case the frequency of light is less, no electrons will be emitted. We can observe that no electrons will be emitted, the kinetic energy is negative. So the correct option is the third option. So let's move on to the next question. Here in kinetic energy E minus pi. So pi is a dash. So what is the pi here? So we know that kinetic energy Ke equal to E minus pi. Kinetic energy Ke. So here pi is a work function. Pi is work function. Pi is a work function. It can denotes the work of the particular functions. So generally we know that work functions are indicated with pi or psi in the quantum mechanics, right? So in this formula, the E minus pi, the pi is a work function. So the correct option is the first option. Clear? So with this, I come to the end of the session. Thank you very much.